In the distant future, our descendants will look back at Earth from the vantage point of massive orbital cities. From that distance, the planet is no longer the entire world. It is the shore they left behind. But 70 million years ago, that metallic future vanishes. Earth is an unbroken expanse of dense rainforest canopy, where survival is earned by the second. Beneath that canopy, the earliest primates are small and exposed. They navigate the high branches, living in the constant shadow of massive apex predators that outsize, outrun, and overpower them. Even as the forests recede and early hominins like Australopithecus step into the open grasslands, the hierarchy remains unchanged. They are scavengers and prey, struggling against cyclical droughts and a shifting landscape that offers very little cover. For millions of years, these early ancestors exercised no control over their surroundings. Their survival was dictated entirely by the brutal, slow crawl of natural selection. The environment was never static. Continents collided, ice ages locked up the oceans, and sudden volcanic eruptions blanketed entire regions in suffocating ash. Facing these sudden shocks, biological evolution is too slow. Growing a thicker coat of fur or a stronger jaw requires a genetic mutation to pass through hundreds of thousands of generations. There was a fatal mismatch during this early biological bottleneck. The agonizingly slow pace of physical adaptation required millions of years to fully take hold across generations. In contrast, sudden planetary shifts and catastrophic climate events happened abruptly. This terrifying gap represents a fragile period where early humans were most likely to go completely extinct. If they waited for their DNA to naturally catch up to a sudden drop in global temperatures, they would simply freeze. They needed a way to adapt without altering their own bodies. The solution was externalizing the adaptation. By shaping a broken stone, they upgraded their anatomy on demand, bypassing the millions of years required for a physical mutation. Homo habilis took that initial step by striking rocks together to create sharp flakes. It was a clumsy method to process meat and bone, but it provided an immediate advantage over their predators. The massive leap occurred with Homo erectus. They observed natural brush fires, captured the lingering embers, and eventually learned to ignite and sustain the flame themselves. By applying that heat to scavenged meat and tough tubers, cooking broke down complex proteins and carbohydrates. It released a massive surge of easily accessible calories that directly fueled the expansion of human brain volume. At night, the campfire formed a thermal barrier against predators. This safe zone extended waking hours, providing the secure environment necessary to share knowledge and forge tight tribal networks. Armed with thermal protection, sharpened stone, and collective strategy, these human groups pushed outward, surviving deep freezes and navigating entirely new continents. Here, the biological dynamic reversed. Instead of waiting for their bodies to adapt to a freezing climate, they burned the environment to keep themselves warm. As survival became slightly more assured, the human mind turned inward. Tribes used natural pigments to paint hunting scenes deep inside caves, establishing symbolic rituals and shared cultural traditions. After millennia of tracking migratory herds, human groups began collecting wild seeds and planting them in deliberate rows. The nomadic wandering halted. By domesticating wheat, barley, and grazing animals, these early farmers generated predictable, localized food surpluses. For the first time, a community produced more calories than it consumed in a single day. Those grain stores anchored the tribes to a single location. Temporary camps became permanent settlements, and as the crop yields multiplied, those villages swelled into dense city-states. That concentrated caloric wealth funded massive labor forces in Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Indus Valley. Societies could suddenly feed thousands of laborers dedicated solely to cutting, moving, and stacking millions of tons of limestone. To track this mounting wealth, bureaucrats invented clay tablets and complex written scripts. To protect their agricultural surpluses, states fortified their borders with thousands of miles of stone and earth. Human existence scaled up. The isolated family unit was absorbed into highly structured empires, defined by specialization, long-distance trade, and organized warfare. As massive sailing fleets established global trade routes across the oceans, the timeline of discovery compressed. Breakthroughs that once took thousands of years began happening in centuries. The steam engine broke the absolute limit of human and animal muscle. Heavy mechanical looms and iron foundries standardized production, turning localized crafts into high-volume industries. To move these mass-produced goods, immense labor forces cut through mountains and laid thousands of miles of steel rail, stitching previously isolated landmasses together. By the early 20th century, the combustion engine put mass-produced automobiles on paved roads, just as the first mechanized gliders broke contact with the Earth entirely. The combination of structural steel and electrical grids pushed architecture upward. Millions of people packed into vertical megacities, overlaying the natural landscape with concrete and glass. As physical infrastructure matured, the focus shifted to manipulating invisible signals. Copper wires and complex switchboards routed human voices across continents in real time. That electrical routing evolved into logical processing. Massive, room-sized machines began executing calculations, allowing engineers to process data at speeds impossible for biological brains. In the span of just a few generations, the primary human pursuit moved from shaping dirt, stone, and iron to organizing pure, weightless information. This intense concentration of data processing, metallurgy, and chemical engineering eventually provided enough thrust to overcome Earth's gravity, placing human footprints in lunar dust. The same survival instinct that led early hominins to capture a spark now leads researchers to integrate biotechnology into our bodies and capture solar radiation to power global grids. Current engineering is shifting toward a sustained presence beyond Earth, moving from single, daring expeditions to self-sustaining smart city habitats on Mars. The human species is moving beyond the limits of its home world. The goal is no longer just to survive the planet, but to actively explore and build within the vacuum of space. Looking back from the outer reaches of the solar system, Earth appears as a fragile speck. It is the single incubator holding an unbroken chain of human ingenuity. It is the place where a vulnerable primate managed to outthink extinction, building a collective intelligence that now reaches toward the stars. The human story is not over. We are just beginning to step into the dark.